Welcome to Flavor Science from FlavorScience, where we explore some of the formulation and flavor challenges that brands face with food and beverage product development. Hi, everybody, and welcome to FlavorScience's 15th episode of Flavor Science. I'm Lisa Jackson, Director of Marketing. Today's session is the last of our four-part series that explored our 2025 flavor predictions. We use an experiential lens when forecasting the direction of flavors. Each prediction centers on how food and beverage brands can use flavor to help deliver a taste experience that's becoming increasingly desirable for shoppers. So we started the year talking about people's quest for serenity, and then we talked about premium. Our third webinar, the most recent one, talked about how you can use flavors to align with changing needs throughout the day. So it was about day part, meet me in the moment. Today, we're discussing the importance of stories as a way to create connections through familiar tales, ingredient sourcing, or exciting crossovers. Before we begin, just a few housekeeping notes. Please use the Q&A feature to submit any questions. We'll try to answer as many as we can today, and we'll follow up with you via email if we don't get to your question. You will receive a copy of these slides and a recording of today's session. We post the session on our website, as well as on our podcast platform, Flavor Science from FlavorScience, that's available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. The team sharing insights and applications expertise today includes Casey Rhodes and Roseanne McGuire, who crafted the cookies that we'll taste later today in the session. Casey, could you go ahead and introduce yourself, please?
Yep. I'm Casey Rhodes. I work for FlavorScience in the applications department. I've been with the company for going on 12 years now. And I made the cookies that you're going to be tasting today.
That's great. Thanks. Welcome. And Roseanne.
Hi, I'm an application bakery scientist. I've been with FlavorScience for about 4 years, and I've been in the food industry for 20 plus years doing product development and bakery application.
Well, thank you both for taking time away from the bench to join us today. I appreciate it very much. Before we begin and start talking about insights, I want to talk about storytelling just in general. So let me share a quick video with you. This video clip illustrates how every flavor can tell a story. Sometimes it starts at the kitchen table in a recipe handed down across generations. The recipes carry more than instructions, though. They hold memories of family gatherings, the patience of prep, and the care behind ingredient choice. To people, it's tradition, but to us, it's a foundation of products that resonate far beyond taste. Other times, the story is about heritage and harvest, starting in the grove, where nature and nurture combine to deliver that definite, authentic flavor. And from there, we transform it, initially maybe by hand, but now with advanced processing methods, we can preserve freshness, aroma, and vibrancy. Technology is evolving, but the goal is the same, capturing the taste of nature. And when stories arrive at the shelf, a single flavor can signal authenticity, quality, or wellness. It's why people pick one product over another. Storytelling through flavor is more than a backdrop. It's a driver of choice and connection. And in the end, flavor stories become part of our shared moments, the beverages we toast, the foods we enjoy, and the connections we make. Flavor is more than taste. It's meaning, memory, and possibility. Now, differentiating foods and beverages through narratives, that's not really a new idea. It actually took hold in the 50s and 60s when products began to proliferate and marketers needed a way to differentiate themselves. It became a larger wave, though, in the early 2000s. The growth recently of the digital world has pushed storytelling into becoming a marketing essential. Research from Gallup shows the power of emotion in decision-making. So 70% of brand choices tie to your feelings more than anything rational. And Stanford researchers demonstrated the value of a narrative for building memories, with about 2/3 of people remembering information that comes in a story versus something that's fact-based. The science about flavors shows us that there is a link between smell, taste, and memory, and it is a way to build positive connections. And now, thanks to user-generated content, you can tap into authentic stories by real people. That's shown to help build a favorable brand image. You have several plot lines that you can use to tell your story, either as a standalone storyline or maybe with multiple subplots. Authenticity is a familiar approach. You talk about your ingredients, your processing methods, or even your ethics. This is a really good plot line to choose if you have a clean label or organic positioning. A recently launched example of an authenticity plotline is Sierra Nevada's Estate Brew. It highlights homegrown grains for a farm-to-table taste. Nostalgia is one we're very familiar with. It's a popular plotline. It taps directly into shopper emotions and it draws on memories to help build positive taste perceptions. This storyline often ties really closely to flavor and format. Crossover flavors often use a nostalgic story, like this recent launch of Snickerdoodle. It's a really cozy flavor from childhood, but now it's in a candy bar format. Aligning with specific cultures is also becoming more frequent as a way to elevate global awareness. This storyline is effective when you want to deepen engagement. Here's a recent ice cream launch. It calls out heritage in the name, and it introduces kulfi, a traditional, densely textured frozen dessert from the Indian subcontinent. It also uses the familiar flavor of chai to add to the appeal, so it lessens the risk if someone's not familiar with that format. You can also use storytelling to take people on a journey, engaging their imagination and creating the getaway aspects of taste. Here's an example of a pina colada coconut juice. The flavor profile takes you straight to the beach, and even the packaging quickly transports you to sunnier climates. And finally, the plotline of uniqueness can clearly communicate how your product stands out from the crowd. If you have a novel flavor or a format that's designed to meet evolving needs, then calling out your points of difference can build curiosity and heighten your value. Here's an example of a product that's typically sweet, but they've pivoted to a savory honey-smoked barbecue flavor. So, Roseanne and Casey, you both provide applications expertise across categories. Do you have some examples you can share of recent work that included some storied flavors? Roseanne, let's start with you.
Certainly. Thank you, Lisa. So one of our customers asked us to come up with a unique snack bar flavor. So based on the transportative plot line, we based it on a vacation and on the beach with, the wind blowing and the waves lapping and the nice warmth of the fruits in the valley of the area of the coconut and pineapple. So we come up with a tropical tzatziki snack bar for them, and it, brought back when they had their product and when the customers taste their product, memories of a nice vacation on the beach and that sort of thing.
Okay, that's a great example. Thank you. And Casey, do you have an idea or two?
Yeah, I got one. One of the more memorable ones that I've done in the more recent past is it's aligns more with the cultural alignment aspect, and it was called a shoe fly pie, and basically it's like a regional I guess like a traditional Dutch Pennsylvanian dessert that was I guess founded in like the late 1800s and is molasses based crustless pie, and that's just one that always sticks with me.
And no flies involved.
No flies. No flies involved.
But I bet, and what format did you put that flavor profile in?
Yeah, so we converted that into an ice cream concept.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. Thank you both for those examples.
You're welcome.
So you can see you have, even as Roseanne was talking, you could do something that's transportive, but maybe you tie into a culture. And then Casey, when I talked about the subplots, he talked about cultural alignment, but there's probably an element of nostalgia for people who are familiar with shoe fly pie. So a flavor profile can connect with people through a number of plot lines. The idea of brand stories is really active across the social landscape, whether that's posts on Instagram or Pinterest, recipe ideas, menu items, or even products sold at retail. Brand storytelling is up about 20%. It's increasingly associated with food and beverage experiences. And when you look at the types of experiences that come up with brand stories, you can see it's about reconnection and togetherness and remembering. The foods linked to brand stories often have inherent tales to tell, whether it's the cultural details about the style of noodles or waffles, or the origin stories of fudge, sorbet, cheesecake, or even cherries. The percentages shown here reflect the increase in social discussions over the past year, as reported by social listening platform Tastewise. The colors indicate whether the food is mature, that means it's well-known, stable, but growing, trending, so it's substantial in the social landscape and growing quickly, emerging, showing consistent year-over-year growth, but maybe not as large as the other areas, or those that are in early days, areas that are growing, but maybe not as stable as others. So those are the ones to watch over time. Now, the beverages associated with storytelling, they really make sense. You often see stories about types of alcohol, the sourcing for lemonade, refreshers, and the history of teas showing up in the social landscape. All of these are up versus a year ago. Some types of ingredients are buzzy too, and they're often linked to varietals or authenticity. And it's worth noting that while these are the areas gaining momentum in the social space, this list is by no means exhaustive. We just wanted to give you a representation of how connections can be created through different types of foods. Flavors certainly support brand storytelling, especially if the taste ties into desirable experiences. Here you see associated with seasonality or creativity, tradition, premiumness, authenticity. The foods where people often tell the story of the flavor in the social landscape are shown here with the growth and discussions over the past year. Not surprisingly, the flavors and stories of sandwiches continue to generate buzz. The flavor stories, though, of mint, some tropical fruits, sushi, and steak are showing consistent and really fast growth. And there's lots of early categories where flavor stories are gaining momentum. You see flavor stories showing up around pastries or confections. Those are categories that have a lot of nostalgic, authentic flavor tales. Interesting to us, though, are categories like protein bars. Roseanne gave an example of a tropical tiki, but flavor stories often talk about bringing favorite indulgent tastes or desserts into a new category. And then across these, the narratives often focus on the naturalness of the flavor. Many beverages have stories that underpin brand promises, but these are the categories getting noticed more often for flavor stories. The narratives for whiskey and tea flavors continue to generate interest. Beer flavors are really trending right now. They're becoming more important for craft brewers as a way to stand out and appeal to people, often in younger generations, who want exotic and bold flavor experiences. So that unique plot line we talked about earlier is a way that they might connect. And as interest in Japanese cuisine grows, that cultural tie, and sake becomes more widely available, we're starting to see innovation and stories around flavors. And then you do see a few beverage categories, both alcoholic and non-alcoholic, that are showing momentum. Now, let's start exploring the flavor stories underpinning the cookies that most of you received.
Hi, I'm Casey Rhodes, application technician here at FlavorSome. Today, we're demonstrating how storied flavors can cross categories. If you were one of the first 25 people to register for the webinar, you should have received a sample box with 3 sugar cookies. The flavors are cherry cheesecake, churro, and yum mule. Each cookie has a traditional sugar cookie base made with flour, unsalted butter, eggs, sugar, baking soda, and a little salt. I have baked the cookies here in our Kalamazoo facility. If you haven't already, go ahead and have the cookies ready to taste as we discuss the flavor systems.
So let's talk a little bit more about the story behind cherry cheesecake. Cheesecake actually traces back to ancient Greece, where versions were actually served to athletes at the first Olympic Games as a good source of protein and energy. It was also a popular wedding cake and a food offered to the gods, often set on fire. We find it in works like the Gastronomic Guide of Archestratus around 250 BCE. But fast forward centuries, and we know New York-style cheesecake has become a modern icon. But adding cherries on top actually started in the mid-20th century when canned fruit toppings made their way into home baking. Cherry cheesecake has come to represent celebration at home and a simple but accessible luxury. Now, turning to social listening shows us that the flavor profile is becoming more interesting to people. It's up 13% in the past year. And you can see it showing up in thousands of posts and on menus. People increasingly link cherry cheesecake flavor to indulgent, fresh, artisanal experiences, and they often are a convenient way to satisfy cravings. And we do find the profile easily crosses categories and formats. from mini desserts that you see here to pastries and even cocktails. These examples from TasteWise show thousands of likes and saves. That really validates the appeal of the cherry cheesecake flavor. So let's hear Casey talk about the flavor profile created for the cookie demo.
Cherry cheesecake is a classic dessert. It's creamy, tangy, sweet, and indulgent. When creating a cookie inspired by this dessert, our challenge was to capture that same experience in just a few bites. Today, we'll taste how we translated the cheesecake profile into a flavor system for a sugar cookie. Let's start with the base. In a traditional cheesecake, the base is the graham cracker crust. It tastes slightly toasty, buttery, and sweet. For a cookie, the sugar cookie foundation works. The subtle, warm notes of baked butter and brown sugar mimic the toasty graham character. This creates the first anchor point for your palate. Then, we recreated the cream cheese layer. The heart of a cheesecake is its creamy, tangy body. To replicate that in a cookie, we chose a cream cheese flavor with a balance of dairy richness and light acidity. Since a cookie doesn't have the texture of a cheesecake, the flavor system carries the tangy creaminess that you'd normally feel on your tongue as you eat cheesecake. Next, we highlighted the cherry topping. We selected a cherry flavor that balances ripe juiciness with a touch of tartness, so it doesn't get lost in the richness of the cookie. This layer of flavor is critical because it delivers the bright top note that tells your brain, yes, this is cherry cheesecake. Finally, we bring it all together. We blended the flavors carefully into the sugar cookie format. We considered texture, sweetness, and bake stability so that the cherry, cream cheese, and graham-like notes come together well. The result, a handheld, shelf-stable cookie that reminds you of the experience of cherry cheesecake. As you take a bite, see if you can pick out the layers of taste. First, the buttery cookie base, then the creaminess of cheesecake, and finally, the sweet cherry. This is how we transform a plated dessert into a flavor system designed for a new format.
So here are a few more examples of how cherry cheesecake flavor is showing up in the marketplace. Mintel captured the Chobani yogurt. This was introduced last year, and it's really received kudos for replicating the dessert experience, but with higher protein, calcium, and lower sugar. So it's an accessible and permissible indulgence. The Planet Nutrition smoothie that you see here also offers a customized experience, and it leans into the dessert-like taste too. Earlier this year, Kroger featured a cherry cheesecake cookie in its limited edition Cherry Harvest portfolio. Here now, they relied more on the authentic plot line than something nostalgic or a tie to the dessert. And here's another cocktail idea linked to the dessert that really shows the versatility of the flavor profile. So Casey and Roseanne, we see cherry cheesecake happening across applications. So Roseanne, how would the end use affect the flavor usage rate? Let's say in that dairy application like yogurt.
For example, for the yogurt, you may want to increase your level of flavor just to make sure that it, with the dairy base, the flavor is able to flourish. You know, you have nice cherry notes that you're looking for and the nice cream cheese notes to come through. So I would increase the level. That's what I would suggest for this type of product.
Oh, that's terrific. Thank you. And Casey, the cocktails that we looked at looked pretty interesting. What would you change if you wanted to use the flavor system in alcohol?
Kind of piggybacking off what Roseanne said, a lot of the times when you're converting a flavor from one application to another, you want to just start with rebalancing. And a lot of the times with a alcohol beverage, your usage rate's significantly lower than it is in like a baked good. So you're going to want to just start by basically rebalancing and then level setting, and then you can go from there.
Okay. And I know that gummies are a growing area where we're starting to see a lot of flavor exploration. Would you, right now, I think we use water soluble in this application. Would you change it to oil soluble for gummies?
Potentially. A lot of the times your oil soluble flavors are going to hold up a little bit better with gummies. But again, your usage rate is going to be a lot higher in your candies and confections and, hard candies and gummies than they are in a beverage.
Okay. Great. Thank you. Thank you both. So let's turn to the next story. Churro. We learned that Spanish shepherds often created churros as a simple portable snack while tending their flocks in remote mountainous regions. The dough is made from basic ingredients like flour, water, and salt because it was easy to cook over open fires. And although not proven, some theorize the pastry is actually named after the churra sheep, whose spiraled horns actually resemble the ridged shape of churros. That's likely a combination of practicality and folklore, but it really makes a good story. As an iconic Latino snack, churros have long resonated among Hispanic communities in the US. But now broader audiences are increasingly seeking out authentic ethnic flavors. Churros have gone mainstream, and you can now find them on food trucks and in theme parks like Disneyland or Walt Disney World. The mainstream appeal shows in the higher number of people, posts, and dishes mentioning the flavor profile. And more specifically, people are highlighting churros' experience as an easy indulgence that's often fun and celebratory. Some posts also point out that it's trendy, and some even mention that they have magical qualities. Here's an example of a homemade bakery box with churros as part of the assortment. And here's a post about those magical lightsaber churros at Disney. Someone really got creative with churro dough here, and they made it into a chocolate fountain, and more than 35,000 people saved the recipe. Looks a little challenging to me, but more power to them. So here's how Casey explains the churro flavor system in your churro cookie.
People love churros' contrasting textures and flavors. Warm, doughy center with a crisp exterior, rolled in cinnamon sugar, often paired with a dipping sauce. Our goal here was to capture that indulgent street fare treat and deliver it as a sugar cookie flavor system. Let's walk through how we translated churro into cookie form. At the heart of a churro is its dough. It's lightly fried with notes of wheat, egg, and vanilla. The cookie base helps recreate that fried dough base. Its buttery flavor with subtle sweetness echoes the golden, fresh from the fryer character. But no churro is complete without the sweet warmth of cinnamon sugar. Flavors can help replicate the cinnamon sugar coating. We recreate the experience by choosing a cinnamon churro flavor with a sweet bakery note that gives the impression of a coating. In the cookie, this comes through as burst of spice that instantly says churro. Many people associate churros with dipping sauces, like caramel, chocolate, or dulce de leche. The cookie format doesn't carry a sauce, but we introduce a hint of sweetness through the brown sugar. This creates a subtle finish that rounds out the churro experience and makes the cookie taste more indulgent. How does it all fit together? Well, in a churro, texture does a lot of the storytelling. In a cookie, flavor has to carry that job. By weaving together fried dough notes, warming cinnamon sugar, and a touch of richness, we were able to reimagine the churro's sensory cues in a sugar cookie format. So, let's taste. And notice the journey. The buttery cookie base, the warm spice of cinnamon sugar, and the sweet finish that ties it together. This is how a beloved street snack can inspire a cookie that still feels authentic and nostalgic.
So let's take a look at a few more in-market examples. Restaurants are really getting creative. They're plussing up churros with fillings, and you see those bright sparkles there. But the flavor profile also extends to other bakery applications like these waffles introduced this year. It launched in soft serve as an LTO, and the flavor system became a frame for an ice cream sandwich. They took cookies and put the churro system there. We've also seen it in whiskey in the past year, and rum, and even coffee-based drinks. So, Casey, feedback about the use of churro flavor in alcoholic beverages, when you look at these comments here, they've been mixed. Reviews often point out that it's pretty sweet. So how would you still deliver the churro taste, but maybe improve that sweetness experience?
That's a good question. You could always look at the base formula and maybe decrease your sugar content in your formula. And then again, rebalance with adjusting your usage rates on your flavors. And then potentially look at reformulating the actual flavor itself. I know with alcohol, the TTB has certain regulations on flavor components, so you just got to keep a close eye on some of those some of those sweetness pieces that are in your flavor.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. And Roseanne, we see several bakery and dairy applications here. So far, we haven't seen this flavor profile shift into spoonable yogurt. So how would you adjust the flavor system to deliver churro in a product that's known to be a little bit tart? Would it work?
It would work. What you need is similar to what Casey mentioned. You need to balance your base ingredients, and I also would again likely increase your level in order to allow the flavor to come through. And possibly you could, if it's a yogurt base, you could also put an additional vanilla flavor, and that would balance the sweet churro to push through and give you a nice sweet churro finish.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. So before we talk about our last flavor profile, I do want to take a few minutes to address a question we often get about what it takes to have a long-lasting flavor trend. The characteristics of a flavor like churro certainly include its appeal as a social trend. It's really visually striking, it's customizable, it encourages sharing, and it helps build cravings. But can that flavor extend across categories? And you can take a path of being either really innovative or maybe a traditional classic. Importantly, having a flavor that delivers a multi-sensory experience through aroma, flavor, and texture can increase the likelihood of lasting. And then finally, does the flavor or could it become a seasonal flavor so that you build anticipation for its arrival, like that ubiquitous pumpkin spice? So recent examples of flavors on the horizon that could become a lasting trend certainly include Dubai chocolate. But texture is an important part of the experience, so finding ways to replicate that aspect might be challenging in some applications. Certainly, though, chocolate pistachio as a flavor profile is a pivot that also has really high appeal. Speculoos or Biscoff flavor, it's not new, but it's definitely picking up momentum because people are experimenting with it across applications. These are cinnamon rolls made with speculoos. The warmth of the flavor profile does really prime it for that coveted seasonal appeal. This one was interesting to us. Concha's origin story is usually in a cookie format, but people are extending the flavor into creamers, ice cream sandwiches, French toast, and lattes. I even found a recipe for a Concha-flavored martini. And then Princess Torta. This is a flavor that currently pivots most often into other sweet goods. You find it in cupcakes, candies, or chocolate. We haven't seen a creamer or cocktail yet, but it's probably possible to transform what is a sweet, creamy, and nutty taste and notes of raspberry and vanilla into a flavor system. And then lastly, the Paris-Brest pastry, wow, that's hard to say, Paris-Brest pastry flavor shows up in ice cream and other baked goods like macarons or cream puffs. It could pivot though, because it's got a really nutty praline flavor that might fit into new formats. So, on to our last flavor profile, the Yule Mule. The Moscow Mule was actually invented in 1941 at Hollywood's Cock and Bull Bar. It was a collaboration between John Martin, he was the president of Hubline & Brothers that owned Smirnoff Vodka, Jack or John Morgan, he was the owner of the Cock and Bull and a ginger beer producer, and Sophie Brzezinski, who introduced copper mugs from her family's copper factory. The drink's success was really tied to clever marketing. They offered Moscow Mules and eye-catching copper mugs, and they took a lot of photos of bartenders with the drink to build buzz. As cocktails gained popularity during holidays, people started creating festive versions of classic drinks, including the Moscow Mule. One of the most popular riffs is this cranberry-infused twist. The Yule Mule first appeared around the 2010s, and it's growing in popularity because variations are emerging beyond this, so people are muddling rosemary and orange peel or adding orange juice for an extra citrusy twist. Now, although fewer people are posting about holiday mule cocktails, the idea is getting buzzier, up 20% in the past year. And the experience is refreshing, attractive, and sometimes celebratory. People often highlight the drink's role in relaxation and serenity, and a few people even note their almost magical qualities again. Now, the flavor profile of the Yule Mule is actually cranberry, orange, and ginger. It's also growing and showing up more often. It gets kudos for being refreshing, indulgent, celebratory, and it hits on that all-important quality of lasting flavors, seasonality. It also gets noticed by some as a creative and versatile flavor profile. So when we look at social listening, people are making beverages with the profile, relishes, and baked goods. But here's how Casey explains the flavor system in a cookie delivers the Yule Mule experience.
The Yule Mule is a holiday spin on the classic Moscow Mule. Bright citrus, tart cranberry, and a little spicy warmth. Our goal was to capture the festive cocktail profile and reimagine it as a sugar cookie flavor system. We started with the citrus spark because mules are all about citrus. We translated that crisp, zesty quality into the cookie with an orange flavor that's juicy and refreshing, but not overpowering. The orange notes blend well with the cookie sweetness. Then, we layered in the tart cranberry. The cranberry note brings in the holiday spirit. It adds a tangy, slightly tart edge that balances the sweetness of the sugar cookie, just as it balances the cocktail's ginger beer and vodka in the drink. Next, we added the warm finish. A mule usually has that signature ginger bite. In a cookie, we kept things softer. We added a ginger spice note to round out the cranberry and orange. It gives a little warmth and keeps the flavor profile true to its inspiration. The result? By weaving in bright citrus, tart cranberry, and a touch of spice, we created a cookie that tastes festive and layered. It's like the cocktail it's inspired by, only in a baked, bite-sized format. Now as you taste, see if you can follow the flavor journey. First, the sweet citrus and the cranberry tartness, and finally, a warm finish that lingers. It's the holiday toast you can eat. As we wrap up the tasting, just a reminder that while we showed storied flavors in cookies, we used a similar approach for other applications. These flavors have broad appeal beyond bakery to categories like ice cream, yogurt, confection, even cocktails. Let us know if you'd like samples of any of the flavors we've tried today. And if you want to talk about how these or other storied flavors would fit your application, please reach out. We can help.
And so let's take a look at how it's showing up in the marketplace. You can find the flavor profile in chocolate, in snacks, in beverages, teas, and even some frozen desserts in food service. For people who like this profile, they're usually satisfied with the taste experience, but notice that few brands are directly linking it to the holiday mule concept. So Casey, how would the profile work in a mocktail? What would you add to simulate the vodka?
So yeah, we have a library of alcohol flavors. So a lot of the times when we're doing mocktails, I'll just reach for a vodka flavor, and that does a pretty good job of mimicking that alcohol burn, the taste that you would get from a full strength beverage.
Okay, great, thank you. And Roseanne, where wouldn't this flavor profile work? I mean, could it be in a yogurt or a creamer, or is its lane really more in the bakery and refreshing beverage space?
I believe it's more in the bakery and refreshing beverage space because like the yogurt or the creamers have a very acidic base, and the profile of this flavor system with the cranberry and the orange and the ginger is almost like an acidic profile. So I would suggest it would work better in the bakery side
than in a dairy. Okay, good. Well, thank you both. And now it's time to turn over to some questions and answers. I see I have a few questions that have come in. See if I can get to those. There we go. Okay, Roseanne, I think this one is for you. It says, part of my brand story is using organic ingredients. Is the churro flavor system organic certifiable?
The product is definitely organic certifiable. We'd have to adjust the ingredients to make sure that all the raw materials are organic certifiable, as well as like in your system, your finished product system, all your ingredients would have to be organic as well. But it's definitely feasible to make this organic certifiable, this flavor.
Okay, good, thank you. And Casey, this one's for you. You used a traditional sugar cookie base. How might you tweak the base ingredients to add flavor complexity in a cookie for the cherry cheesecake or even the Yule Mule?
Yeah, so a lot of the times to add complexity and dimension, we're going to add inclusions.
Okay.
They're fun, and they add a lot of texture and differentials into your concept. And so, like for the Yule Mule, you could add little, dried cranberry pieces to it or whatnot.
Okay. Good. And Roseanne, I know that when we were talking about these concepts, we initially thought about putting the Yule Mule flavor system into a gingerbread base. Why did you move away from that?
I did do testing with the gingerbread base, but with the gingerbread base, you would have a lot of very strong ginger base notes that tend to overpower your nice balanced flavor system of the orange and the cranberry and the ginger. So that's why we chose to go back and put it into the sugar cookie base.
Okay, good. Thank you. This one seems like it's for me. It said, you mentioned possible contenders for the next churro-like flavor. Are any other flavor profiles? What are the other flavor profiles that would be most like pumpkin spice? We're watching variations of apple I think that there is a possibility there because there is a seasonality to that. And you also have the varietals within Apple that I think make it really interesting. It's very versatile, showing up across applications. It's pretty social media worthy depending on the format. So it really hits on a number of those characteristics that lead to lasting flavors. And it looks like, I'm not sure, Casey, maybe you can take this. It says, you know what, Roseanne, it actually taps into the organic question. Do you have regulatory or documentation for your flavors that help satisfy requirements that are core to brand identity, like organic? Do we have the regulatory documents in place?
Yes, we certainly do. When you request a flavor, if there's documentation that you're looking for to go with along with your finished product that you want to launch, we definitely have all those certifications like the non-GMO, the halal status, kosher, all those documentations are available, and the organic information as well.
Okay, good. Thank you. And then Casey, here's one that maybe you and I can share. It says, I was here for the last webinar about flavors for different parts of the day. How could you tell a story about a specific day part with flavors? Do any day part flavors come to mind to you that might have a story?
Fresh squeezed oranges. Yeah, that's
yeah, that's a good
classic
one.
breakfast.
And it would extend certainly during the day, but maybe it's a pick-me-up in the afternoon, right?
Yeah,
you need
sure.
that energy from morning. Okay, great. Well, that looks like all the questions that we have so far. So I'm going to close with a big thank you to all of you who spent some time with us today. We really hope that you enjoyed the sweet treats, in addition to the stories that we told. Please look for a copy of the webinar in your inbox really soon, and mark your calendars for our next webinar. It's on November 4th, and there we'll share insights about the cultural trends that we anticipate will affect food and beverage innovation in 2026. Casey, Roseanne, again, thanks so much for your time and for creating such delicious cookies. Hope you all have a great afternoon. Thanks for watching this episode of Flavor Science from FlavorSome. Whether you want to formulate with a tried and true flavor or innovate with a brand new creation, having a great flavor partner accelerates your success. At FlavorSome, we combine expertise, responsiveness, and infrastructure to deliver an all-in-one solution that helps growing food and beverage companies improve their speed to market. Part of our mission is making flavor sourcing more efficient, effective, and enjoyable with best-in-class responsiveness, competitive lead times, and products designed to meet your goals. Work with us to create the delicious new products your customers are craving.